Hello, I'm John Feldt. This is the weekly water outlook from Blue Water Outlook, produced on January 27th, 2013. Well, across the southern region here, you can see it's been a fairly quiet week. There was some light precipitation over Kansas. Matter of fact, the northeast part of the state received a little bit more modest precipitation, from 1/10 to 1/4 of an inch. But for the most part, over the last 7 days, almost all of Oklahoma, almost all of Texas, all of Arkansas was very quiet. Many areas, no rain whatsoever. So if we take a look at the percent of normal precipitation, the entire region was well below normal. Almost the entire state of Texas was 25% or less of normal, as well as Oklahoma and surrounding states, Arkansas, Louisiana, a little bit closer to normal over the northern part of Kansas. Now, no snow over the last 7 days, but I did want to show you over the northeast part of the state some very heavy snow and very cold weather as well. So aren't we glad we're not in that part of the United States, because it looks like that pattern is going to continue for quite some time now. Likewise, here's the snow depth across the nation. And I always keep a really close eye on the upper Midwest, and I will for the next couple months on my briefings for that area, as far as what the water equivalent is. And that's how much water is contained within the snow, because when it melts, it could produce quite a bit of flooding. Now, right now, this is the water equivalent, and I'd really want to expect to see a couple inches of snow at least, or water equivalent, in that snowpack before I got concerned. But closer to home here, over the south, obviously no snow, no water equivalent. Now, there has been a scattering of some flooding, again, off to the east. Nothing over the south, other than some spots here and there with some rain over the far border regions. But for the most part, so far it's been very quiet. Now, I haven't talked about El Nino for a while. It's been updated. I'm going to be talking about the teleconnections and the oscillations quite a bit in my newsletter that I'll be issuing later this week. But I wanted to point out that the current reading here, as you can see, has dipped a little bit below zero. It's about minus 0.1. This is what it was last month, so it's sort of staying in that neutral range, and the models are holding it in the neutral range as we go through the winter months. The only thing I want to sort of find interesting here is that it has dropped fairly modestly over the last month. The other thing, if you remember the models I've been showing over the last couple months, earlier this winter I was expecting it to stay here, and now these models are down here. So it is drifting south a bit. I'm still not overly concerned that the probabilities of going into a La Nina are there, but I do think that neutral conditions are more likely throughout the winter months. Okay, so here's a jet stream. A lot of lines here, but I wanted to show you the progression as we go through this week. Blue is early this week, yellow is midweek, and green is latter this week. And basically, we're transitioning into this green type of jet stream pattern. This is the quasi-stationary pattern that I expect from later this week, right out through the early part of February. To get to that, we're going to have to go through these other patterns here, and each one of these is a little pulse of energy that's going to be pushing off to the east. That could produce some light or modest precipitation over eastern parts of Oklahoma, Texas, fairly widespread parts of Arkansas and Louisiana until we get into that pattern. And this is the amount of precipitation. And like I said, the eastern part of Oklahoma could receive a fairly significant rainfall, anywhere from a ½ inch to an inch. Maybe even brushing up to 2 inches over the southeast part of Oklahoma. The eastern half of Texas looks like it will be receiving some precipitation, with the eastern quarter receiving the most, maybe up to a ½ inch to 3/4 of an inch. And then a widespread rainfall event over much of Arkansas and parts of Louisiana. Looks like Kansas is going to miss this because the system will be picking up that moisture further to the east, and it looks like Kansas will remain for the most part very dry, as well as western Oklahoma and roughly the western half of Texas. This is actually the snow forecast, and I'm not sure what the models are picking up here as far as Texas, but I did want to mention that this week you might be hearing some possibility of snow over the Great Lakes region. And what you can see here is that's going to be the active spot, as it has been the last couple of weeks. Now, as far as forecast soil moisture change, for most of the region, it looks like it's going to be either neutral or a very slight decrease in soil moisture. Now, the exception is going to be that band of blue, and that's where soil moisture will be increasing as we round out this month and head into February, and that's associated with the heavier rainfall that I mentioned, mainly in Arkansas this week. Now, once we get some heavier rain, I'm going to be talking a bit about vulnerabilities. That could be vulnerabilities towards drought that I've talked about extensively over the past number of months, or I could be talking about vulnerabilities for flooding. Right now, it looks like there is a vulnerability for flooding in this area of green. This is a soil moisture anomaly. So Louisiana, for southeast Arkansas, there is that vulnerability for more significant river rises and runoff. But for the most part, the anomalies are very, very low right now for soil moisture, and that rain that falls over Oklahoma is going to pretty much be soaked into the ground due to these very low soil moisture deficits. Now, I mentioned that jet stream is going to get into that pattern that might hold for a while once we get into the latter part of this week. I just wanted to show you what these precipitation and temperature patterns will be once we get into the end of January into early February. The top is precipitation. It looks like generally a continued dry pattern with the core of the dry pattern over the right in the center part of the country, Kansas, western Oklahoma, and Texas. But still not all that impressive even over the eastern parts of Oklahoma and Texas. Looks fairly quiet once this system moves through this week. As far as temperatures go, the far southwest U.S. will be the warmest, the east will be the coldest, and the south central U.S. will be sort of in the middle there, but trending towards temperatures above normal. So for this week's briefing, takeaway will be continued dry over western Texas, western Oklahoma, all of Kansas, and a modest rainfall event over eastern Texas and most of Arkansas. Now, I will be updating my newsletter this week. I hope you read it. There will be a lot of information on what's causing our weather over this winter months, and I will be updating the weekly water outlook again in about a week. Thank you.